What's up, everyone? Out here at Woodsboro Regional Park playing the longest layout they have here. So, getting right into it, hole one is 408 feet. It's a par 3, pretty wide open here up this hill. You'll probably gain about 30 feet in elevation as you're going up this hill. I'm playing around with the voiceover today because I walk all of these holes just to give a better perspective of the layout and the elevation. Once we get into the woods, you'll see that it's a little tricky if you just jump around to your different shots to really get a good feel for how the hole's laid out and what gaps you want to hit and all that stuff. So upshot here, the basket is elevated and it's sitting right on the edge of this ridge. You'll see once we get up to that basket, but it drops off about 30 feet to the left and just likes to roll down into that ditch. So the upshot's tricky because you want to land it short a little bit and then to the right of the basket, but then you're going to have a death putt down the hill. As you can see here, I doink it off the front of the cage, and there's that roll away I was talking about, which happens a lot more than you would expect it to. This long layout here at Woodsboro is the green tees to the white baskets. There's 3 tees and 2 baskets for every hole here, which makes it fun because you can play a bunch of different layouts, which you'll probably see in some future videos. Put it out for a double bogey on that hole 1. Hole 2, again, fairly wide open. It plays along this flat part along the side of this hill. My shot was a little early left, but you really want to push something out there about 325 feet. Pretty straight. You don't want to get too far here on the left because you get pinched off. The basket's up there on the left a little bit. So really the mistake is here where I am, or that ditch that was on hole 1 plays along the whole right side of this hole, so you also don't want to turn something over and get stuck down there. Makes for a super tricky par. So as you can see here, the basket's tucked up here on the left-hand side a little bit. You have a bunch of these evergreens that are kind of low-hanging. You need to play something fairly low and hopefully get some ground play up there. Give yourself a putt at it. Ideally, if you can get clean off the tee, you'll have probably 200 feet under these trees, and then ideally you'll look for par. Or for birdie, at least. Hole 3 here, it's a 335-foot par 3. There's the outside gap, which is this throw, or there's that inside gap, which is the first one I took. The inside gap has a bunch of trees down there that you have to get lucky through, so in the future I think it's this outside gap that's a little safer. Just forehanded a super overstable disc. I think it was a captain's rafter, and it ended up getting down here pretty good. I think I pick it up, yeah, right in here is where that second shot ended up, so I think in the future I'm just going to play that outside line. It seems a little more consistent, and don't have to get as lucky through some of these trees. Little upshot here, and then putt out for par. The mistake here is getting stuck on that early right-hand side, which is that inside gap. If you get kicked off of a tree bad, you're kind of jailed over there. Hole 4 here, 481 feet. It's a par 4. Off of the tee, it's a little difficult to tell, but this is super uphill, so it's probably 40 feet uphill. You only need a shot that's up here about 170 feet or so, because then you're going to play across this plateau again. That was a bad shot early left, and you're stuck in this. But if you can then throw something about 330 feet out here, the basket is tucked up there on the left-hand side. You can see the yellow basket here. The white one's probably 200 feet further up on the left-hand side. Tried to scramble with the roller. Didn't really work out. This hole also plays a pretty good left to right slope, so you have to take that into account a little bit. It doesn't really come into play until you get up to the green. You can get some rollaways, and there's not really a ton to stop it once it starts going. So as you can see, the basket's here. You really want to stick something close because, again, rollaways happen pretty frequently down this little hill here. Hole 5, 407-foot par 4. Kind of a tunnel shot off the tee. You have left or right of this middle tree that you can try to hit. Either one I think is fine. There's not really one that's better or not. I think the gap is probably up the left-hand side of this hole. But once you get up there about 150 feet away from the basket, it's all pretty tight, and there's a bunch of those little skinny pencil-like trees. So you really just had to pick a gap and get a little lucky. I ended up just playing off of all these trees all the way up here and kicked me off to the right hand side here, so I was kind of forced to play off of the right hand side. But again, it's a little clearer up the left hand side if you can keep something over there. This one also plays uphill a decent amount. From the tee to the basket is probably 20 feet or so, but it's pretty gradual all the way there, so you don't notice it a lot. But it does make this hole play a little longer. That's how a lot of these holes here are. It's either the elevation that gets you or the tight tunnel shots through the woods, or a combination of both. Just makes them a lot trickier than what they look like on the scorecard. Hole 6, 318 feet, par 3, shortest hole on the front 9. You have a pretty generous gap off of the tee. You can either throw the forehand, which I like just because it's more consistent for me. You can throw a backhand that you hope turns over as you get halfway down this fairway. Or, as you could see as we were going by that, there is a sneaky backhand turnover with a super overstable disc, which will then flex out here at the end. It's a really hard gap to hit, but I have seen some people try it. You have this ditch that plays all the way down the right hand side, so the forehand usually ends up down there. Just pitch up and then tap out for a little par. Hole 7, it's a 439 foot par 3. You kind of just have to pick your poison on this hole. Off the tee, you have that wider right-hand gap, but it's super hard to hit with a backhand, just so the way it shapes up. You'd have to throw something super overstable, or you have the straight gap on the left-hand side that's a little thinner. I like the forehand just because it matches the slope of this hill. It's pretty significant left to right slope. I hung it out too wide to the right, and it just never fought back enough. So the mistake is going down here where I am on the right-hand side, because you just have to pitch something back up out of that ditch down there and then try to scramble up here for a par. If you're out of position off of the tee shot, it's really difficult to make a par on this hole. I think probably the best gap to hit is that right-hand one and play to the yellow basket, and then try to just pitch something down here to the white. Once you get down to this green, it slopes even more left to right. So another hole where once your putter stands up, you're rolling 45 feet to the bottom of that hill. And then as you can see here, the basket itself I think is a little elevated and then perched right on the side of this side hill. Hole 8, 395 feet. It's a par 4, but it plays down into this little ravine and then back up a decent amount. So you probably gain maybe 20 to 30 feet of elevation, but you're playing down first, so the second shot's difficult. I like the turnover backhand with a mid off the tee, put it in here somewhere, and then give yourself a look to just get up somewhere on that little plateau on the other side of that ditch, pitch up and take a par. So the mistake here is leaving something out here to the right hand side of the basket, because this ditch is probably 10 feet or so from being level with this plateau. So once you're down there, it's almost an impossible putt to make. You just have to pitch something back up here and then tap out. And then final hole here on the front 9, hole 9, 459 feet. It's a par 3, but plays probably close to 100 feet downhill. This is just the opposite of hole 1, except you're now at the very top of the hill playing all the way down to the bottom. So off the tee, something pushing backhand that you can just hang out here onto the right. Those pine trees come up a lot quicker than you would think. So you either want to put something over those or something stable that's going to crash before those. The number of discs that get stuck in those trees is kind of crazy. You also don't want to hyzer too early because of that tree that we just went under. That can also catch a lot of discs and get you stuck pretty much halfway down this hole. Your upshot is tricky. It's usually about 250 feet from here, but super downhill, so judging the distance correctly is the hard part on this one. This was the tee shot I threw for the thumbnail, so down here a little bit better. But I ended up going pyro for the upshot and then leaving it about 40 feet long. So I think this pretty much wraps up the front 9. I believe I'm currently +7 I ended up missing this putt and then tapping out. We'll see how we do on the back nine. Back nine's a little more wooded, so make sure to tune in, check that one out, and thank you for watching.